This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com and buildermasterclass.com. My name is Todd DeWalt, and it's my job to help you maximize profits and eliminate chaos in your construction business. Got a great interview for you today with a good friend of mine and a client I've known for about a year. His name is Adam Rushing from Oregon. He started out in the skilled trades, worked in several different trades, and 3 years ago started his own construction business. Here's what you're going to hear about. This is what you're going to learn from Adam. Why money isn't real and how that perspective has helped him in business. This is pretty profound. You want to listen to that. You'll find out, in Adam's opinion, where all growth happens and something you need to get comfortable with. You'll hear about Adam's favorite failure and how he looks at failure, if you even want to call it that. How his background in the skilled trades, doing things including shipbuilding, running a sawmill, and even working on wind turbines, set him up for success as a construction business owner. This is a great interview. I got a lot out of this. I'm sure you are too. I've got a couple of resources I want to get in your hands that you may get some value out of before we get to that interview. What's holding you back from experiencing hyper-growth in your construction business? Likely it's poor cash flow. Happens all the time. Moving money from one project to fund materials for your next. But that's all changing. Build will pay your supplier in cash up front and then extend you 120-day terms. Finally, a pay-when-paid solution for contractors so you can experience the confidence to bid on projects you never thought you could. The folks at Build hear it all the time. I wish I had heard about Build sooner. So what are you waiting for? Head over to build.com/CLE and have your materials funded as quickly as same day. That's BILLD.com/CLE. Okay, there are 2 free guides that I want to get in your hands. First up is my cheat sheet with 32 productivity hacks to make your crews and your job sites more productive and profitable. If you're frustrated by lost time, wasted time, shop time, downtime, or stolen time, this is going to help you. Second up is the Optimize Your Overhead Guide. After going through this short guide, you're going to have solid strategies for reducing your insurance costs, reducing your workers' comp cost, reducing your risk, saving money on back office activities, and even turning your accounts payable into a profit center. To download your free PDF guides, no strings attached, no email address required or anything like that, go to buildermasterclass.com. You'll also be able to get some details on the masterclass on maximizing bottom line profits that my good friend Spencer Paget and I put together, and hear from one of the builders who went through it. So go to buildermasterclass.com to get your free productivity hacks and your Optimize Your Overhead Guide. Okay, without further ado, let's get to my interview with Adam Rushing. Enjoy. All right, I'm here with a friend of mine, Adam Rushing from Tillamook, Oregon. Adam, I know it's early where you're at out there, but thanks for being on the podcast. How's it going this morning?
It's going good. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So we met about a year ago. You came to my event in Lexington, Kentucky, back in October of 2019, right?
Yep.
And then met a bunch of folks there. We had a lot of fun while you were there in town. And then we've been working together since then. And you offered to share your story on the podcast, and I appreciate that. So let's talk about that. We'll get into your business. Actually, let's just go ahead and talk about that. What's the name of your company? How long have you been in business, and what type of work are you doing right now?
Yeah, so my business is AR Northwest, Design, Build, Renovate. We've been in business for 3 years now, and we started out doing smaller repairs, remodels, renovations, and then just have kind of scaled up from there. Now getting into new custom homes and larger, higher end renovations.
Very nice. So let's talk about what kind of work you were doing before you started your business. You've got a pretty interesting and pretty varied background, but what were some of the things you were doing before you started your construction business?
Yeah, so I did quite a few different trades. I grew up working construction, helping out with projects. Friends of my dad's that had remodels and things like that going on. And then the house I grew up in too, my dad was constantly remodeling and making changes and things like that. And so got introduced into carpentry and construction pretty young. And as I got into high school, my junior and senior year, I did a running start program where the first half of the day went to a trade school for construction, and did that through my junior and senior year. And there was a lot of really good knowledge there and experience. The second year we did that, we actually built a house from the ground up.
Wow.
So yeah, I just got a really good opportunity with that. And so then after high school, well, I guess in that period of time too, the summer between my junior and senior year, I actually went up and lived in Seattle, Washington for the summer and worked doing repairs and maintenance on apartment buildings up there. And so I got a little bit more firsthand knowledge of, it was college town. The company owned a bunch of the apartment buildings in the university district. So there was a lot of fixing holes in drywall and things like that from college kids and making those kinds of repairs. So learned that quite a bit of that trade. So then after high school, I joined the Carpenters Union, and I worked in that for a couple months, and I just didn't really like that model and how that was going. And so I left the union, and because that was kind of what I went into, was more the industrial and scaffolding and things like that. And so I wanted more residential work. So I left there and went to work for a new home builder. He was building track homes for Highline. And I worked with him through a couple of houses. And that's when the 2008 market hit. And things were slowing down. He didn't have quite as much work. And so I went to work for a shipyard, because through high school, I'd always taken wood shop and metal shop, and so learned how to weld. And I went to work for a shipyard, and first started out just packing materials, being the helper. And then I ended up getting my welder certification, and I was doing welding components into the ships, helping with layout, some pipe fitting. And then as I kind of worked on those skills, learned a little bit of aluminum welding. And so I did a lot of their custom aluminum metal fabrication. And that was a really fun job. I really enjoyed that. And but it wasn't just really what my passion was. So I decided to try something new, and I went to a trade school for wind turbines. And so that was a 6-month program, a lot shorter than a associate's or bachelor's degree. And when I came out of that, I went to work for a company called Vestas. They're a global wind turbine company, and worked doing troubleshooting and maintenance and servicing on wind turbines. And had the great thing about the trades is it doesn't matter really what version of the trades you start in or end in. the skills that you learn in each one of those is applicable to all the others. There's going to be the differences between, products and materials and a little bit of technique, but, you're learning how to read a tape measure, angles, geometry, all the math is generally, universal across the trades, the math that you use. And so, if you can learn and become skilled in one trade, it's a lot easier to pick up and be successful and get hired by other trades because your foundation is there. And so that really helped me, especially when I went into the wind turbine industry, to really pick up and learn that stuff fairly quickly. And so I progressed through the different tech level stages pretty quick. Took about 6 months to a year between the tech progression, and which was pretty significant pay bumps and benefits. And I really enjoyed that work. It was fun. It was you were out in the nature, 280, 300 feet in the air. Great scenery. And but the one thing with that just didn't fit my lifestyle is through that period I got married, had kids, and with the wind turbines, at least at that time, the business model was they were service contracts, and so those can expire and not be renewed by the customer, which then means you have to move. Which for a lot of people, that really fits, what they want. They don't want to be in one place forever and all of that. But after I had kids, me and my wife had decided that we'd rather settle down in one area and raise our family. So I started looking for other jobs, and that's when we moved here to Tillamook. I got hired on as a millwright for a local lumber mill, and worked doing that. I did that for about a year before I ended up supervising the sawmill and the log yard for that company, which worked out great, to be able to have that opportunity to transition from that. And that really gave me the experience and the ability to, or I guess not the ability, but the confidence of having employees, seeing the business side of that kind of thing. It gave me the confidence to come back to construction, which I really, has always been what I liked. And so I left there and started my own business, and we've been going strong for 3 years now, and it just keeps growing and getting better and better, and enjoying it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what did you take away from being a shipbuilder or a wind turbine technician or a millwright that you've applied to the residential construction business? Maybe it's a technique, a different way of thinking. What have you found to be transferable from those seemingly unrelated industries that you've carried over to your business now?
Yeah. So the really with those different industries, well, I guess the most obvious one, or I guess obvious to me that came up is when I worked for the shipyard, and learning to weld, getting that welder certification. So now as I come in and, we're looking at a remodel, we're working with the client, to how to get what they want for the most reasonable price. The ability to kind of think outside the box and utilize steel in those projects. So, I can see that. I can see how it would fit in. I can fabricate the custom brackets needed. And I'm a certified welder. So in one instance, there's a project that I did. It was a log home, and the client wasn't happy with, right in the center of the house was a big, it was like a 22 or 24 inch log that went up the center of the house and held up the peak of the roof. It was a hip roof, really cut up with dormers coming out and everything. So there was a lot of weight loaded right on that log, and he hated it. He hated the look of it. Took up a bunch of space right in the middle of the floor. And so I met with him, and we were talking about, he was trying to figure out what we can do to fix that and get him more space. And so I looked at it, and the first thing that came to my mind was steel, because where that log attached at the top and at the bottom were steel plates that lagged into the framework. It was timber frame roof. And so talked to an engineer, had him spec out what kind of steel post needed to be there, which we were able to take that 22 or 24 inch log, remove that, and put in a 4-inch square tube post. And the plates were already there at the top and bottom. So we jacked up the roof, cut the log out in sections, and then I welded the steel post there in place, and it was a really clean process. Went really well. The cost on that, the overhead on that was really low, just for that ability. That had we had to bring in a certified welder from outside the company, it would have been hundreds of dollars an hour.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that myself for a whole lot less. And client loved it, and it went really well and turned out great. So, had I not had that experience, we probably would have had to find a different way about it. Would have had to spec out still a wood post that probably would have had to be a lot bigger. And then we'd have to wrap that and cover that with something. And had I not had that background, that project would have been entirely different.
All right. So let's go back in time to right before you decided to go into business for yourself. What was your biggest concern about making the jump to start your own business?
The biggest concern for me was really basically the marketing and getting my name out there, getting the jobs that come to me. I was pretty new to town. We'd been here at that time. We were here about 3.5 years in town. So there's still, quite a bit of people that we didn't know. And so I knew it would be hard to get noticed. It's a smaller community, really tight knit, so that pretty much everything is word of mouth. You can throw ads out there and things like that, and you'll get calls, but it'll be basically for all the jobs that nobody else wanted. And so that was a little bit tricky and kind of nerve-wracking going into business. So I kind of planned it. As I was working that out, I was putting together 2 different business models, because I had worked in the different trades. One was for construction and carpentry, and then the other one was for precision maintenance. So that would be on industrial equipment, vibration analysis, laser alignments, and things like that. just in case there was an avenue that seemed a little better suited. But
Gotcha. So most of your business comes from referrals and word of mouth now. Is that right?
uh, yes, probably 70 to 80% of it.
Okay.
We've worked on getting our online presence up now, and kind of that little bit of Facebook marketing. Google is a big one for us, and then just kind of have learned now the tips and techniques on just kind of the verbiage to use on the online stuff to attract people's attentions and things like that.
So when you got started, you were concerned being relatively new in town, not having the reputation or the history of some of the folks that have been there a long time. What would you say is one thing that was key to solving that problem, or either maybe it was just giving you the confidence or giving you the credibility, but what worked for you to solve that problem?
Diversifying what I do was a big one. So, when I first started, I did a lot of rot repair. I did laminate countertops. I did tile. I did flooring. I did drywall repair, a little bit of roof repair. Pretty much, I just made sure that whatever call came in, I could take it, and then just focused on that client relation and making sure that they had the best experience they could, and go that route.
Gotcha. And if we have time, I'd like to talk about how you've transitioned now into larger projects. We'll get to that in a few minutes. I'm curious. I found there are a lot of misconceptions about being a business owner. What was one thing that you believed about owning a business that you were surprised to find out wasn't actually true, after you got into that seat?
So one of the biggest things was that, you don't have a boss. You're free to do, exactly what you want to do, which is that way. But really it's, you become your boss. And so your passion for that and your drive really becomes that boss that you used to have, and which is good. It's just a total different mindset. For instance, I read a book called The E-Myth, which is a really good book, and it kind of breaks down how people going into business for themselves, they're the technician going into business, to be an entrepreneur and having this vision and mindset of what that's going to be like. And then there's the entrepreneur role and the manager role, and you have to quickly learn how to balance those and do all three of those, and because otherwise it doesn't work out for you. So I think that when you go into business for yourself, you have to make sure you're doing it for the passion of wanting to build something, build a company, build a business. Because if you go into it thinking that it's all just going to be this, work whenever you want and have fun whenever you want, and you're going to make a whole ton of money, and all that stuff is it's there, and you get there, but you have to want to have that need or have that passion to be the entrepreneur part to really make sure that it succeeds and goes, because there is times at the beginning that you might go without a paycheck, you might go without a weekend or things like that, but it's all worth it. It's definitely worth it after you put in the time and the work at the beginning.
Yeah, I think what I've found is a lot of people fall in love with the idea of it, and they fall in love with the result of being an entrepreneur, and they think, oh, I don't want a boss, and I don't want to have to work all the time. I want to set my own hours. And the reality is, you're always going to have a customer who's the boss. And if you're a true entrepreneur, you're never going to be satisfied not doing something. You're always going to want to be creating. You'll never get there. You'll never arrive. And you just have to,
Yeah.
you better enjoy the process of building and creating and struggling and grinding. And if you can't handle that, if you can't handle rejection, if you can't handle people telling you no, things not working, getting your feelings hurt, you should probably, if you don't have emotional toughness, you probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you're going to go through a crash course in developing emotional toughness. That's been my experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the E-Myth, I like what he says. Something to the effect of most entrepreneurs are technicians who had an entrepreneurial spasm.
Yeah.
Spasm or seizure or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the reality of it. Is you gotta, I guess the biggest tip I could give is every time something doesn't work out the way you plan, don't get upset about it. Look at it as kind of a win, because you get the opportunity to learn from that, grow from it, and make sure it doesn't happen again. That was a big thing for me. Is one of my first larger projects that I did. We did an addition, second story addition out over the top of a garage, and the project went really well. Everything looked great. Client was happy, but I really underpriced it. It was my first larger project. So as I'm putting the thing together, I'm planning out how many hours it's going to take. And, I was happy I got the job and, really optimistic. And I just really shorted myself on it. And when that happened, I kind of surprised myself, because, you'd really think that you'd be bummed out about it, upset that, you didn't make the money you needed to, and actually lost a little bit of money on it. But I got really excited because I learned that, and I got that out of the way while I was still small enough and early enough that it didn't happen to me later. So, I was just excited about it, because I learned that most of that job I self-performed, 80% of it. And so, I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, I'm out a lot of time, but I'm not out all the wages I would have had to pay to somebody else had I learned that later down the road. And, I tracked all my time, how much each phase took, and material costs. And so I was able to build out a cost book off of it. And then the next one I did really well on. And so, had I just gotten upset and bummed out about it and stewed on it, I probably wouldn't have learned from it.
Yeah.
Like I did.
Yeah, you would have taken it out on the next customer or screwed yourself over somehow. Yeah. No, that's the perfect answer to my next question, which was, how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for success? And that's a great way to look at it. It is all about how you look at it, right? You can look at there are no good or bad situations. That's what I found. They're just situations, and you can either decide to look at it like, you're a failure and you messed up and beat yourself up over it and take it out on everybody else. Or you can say, you know what, there's probably something good here. And like you did, I'm glad I didn't do this when I had a bunch of people on the payroll. And now I've gotten it behind me. This mistake was coming. I was going to make it. Now I've learned from it. It's never going to happen again. And
Yeah.
probably could have been a lot worse. So that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. You can only fail if you don't learn from it. Kind of
Yeah.
the way I see it.
Yeah. And this whole concept of failure, what is failure? I failed. Did you? If you get back up and you keep going, it's not a failure. It sounds kind of woo woo pie in the sky, but you only fail if you quit, and you will fail. That's what I found. I have failed so many times, over and over and over. And in fact, some of my biggest failures really set me up for success. I've been fired, laid off, shut down a business, and those things, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if those things had not happened. So for those folks listening who are thinking, I am a failure, I just failed, or you're in the middle of something that looks like failure, you just need to put on some different glasses and look at the positive. You're going to get through it. And just don't beat yourself up over it too much.
Yeah.
Next question. Tell me about someone who's had a significant influence on your career and your business.
Well, I guess the biggest one would actually be my wife, because she is overly optimistic, which is really helpful. Every time it's like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know how it's going to work out. It's always just like, oh yeah, you can do it. You got it. It'll work out. And at the time, I'm always in my head like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're overly optimistic, and that's not helping me. But it does, because had she given me other answers, that I probably would have left that behind and moved on to different opportunities and things like that. But it really has helped to push me to take those reasonable risks to push myself forward, because if you're not, all the best things are just outside your comfort zone. So if you're not pushing yourself outside of that, then you're not getting where you need to be. And so that over optimism is really helpful. Doesn't seem like it at the time sometimes, but looking back each way, it's good. Just like, I was always really concerned and nervous switching between trades, and just always knowing that one person's there that's, doesn't think there's any way you can do it wrong, really helps out. So that would be one. And then another one would be a coworker I had pretty early on. It was right after I switched from construction to the shipyards, and he'd do every part of the process. It didn't matter what phase. He was pretty young at the time, and it didn't matter what phase it was. He would do it, and he would do it pretty well. And so, as I'm kind of job shadowing and watching what's going on, and I mentioned to another guy, I go, wow, he's pretty good at that, because it was something totally out of the normal realm of what we did. And the guy said, yeah, he's good at everything he does. And for some reason that really just stuck with me. And that's what I wanted people to think about me. And so really from that point on, I could see that, it didn't matter what process it was, what phase, whether it was out of his normal, he was able to figure it out and do it. And so that kind of prompted me to, from that point on, I've always just kept kept a little notepad with me, like the little 3x5, and any conversation that was going on around me, any process that was getting talked through, if something was mentioned that I didn't know what it was or how to do it, I'd pull that notepad out and I'd jot it down. And then when I'd get home that night, I'd look it up and research it, so that next time it came up, I was able to jump in and help with that. And that was just a huge game changer for me. And I think a really big part of being able to jump between those trades and be successful at each of them going forward. And I would just suggest to anybody to do that, whether you're in a trade or not, just carry that with you. And if something comes up that you don't understand or you don't know about, write it down and look it up later, because it's going to come in useful. Yeah. And then, if you get to a point in a trade or a skill set, whether it's within that same trade to where you're plateauing, look for that next opportunity. Look for that, that next job posting or that next promotion or the next transfer between departments in a company, just to learn more, because the more you have a well-rounded picture of everything that's going on, everything just gets easier, and the opportunities just really grow.
Yeah. Now, some people would avoid those situations where they don't know, because it might look like they don't know what they're talking about. There's an opportunity for failure, an opportunity to get criticized or look dumb. So they avoid those promotions. They avoid switching. They feel like, it's too late for me. I'm 25 years old. I can't learn a new trade. I can't change industries. What are people going to think? My resume is going to look weird, whatever. But I think a lot of it is people see it as risky, and they avoid new things, and they avoid new challenges because of the risk of failure. And what would you say to those folks?
I guess without the opportunity for failure, and I don't even know if I call it failure, because like we were saying, you only fail if you give up. Mm-hmm. But I guess without the opportunity for risk, I guess is a better way to put it, you're not growing. You're not moving anywhere. And I really think that, the times have changed and everything's moving faster. Everything's changing faster. And if you're not jumping at those opportunities, you're going to get left behind. It's the days of graduating high school, going to work for a company, and retiring from that same company at 65 is over. Especially if you want to, get where you want to be in life. And just push yourself and take those reasonable risks. Mm-hmm. and learn from them if they don't go the way you plan it to.
Yeah. I think I agree what you're saying. Without the opportunity for risk, or if there's no opportunity for quote failure, you're not growing. So one way to say that would be a good skill. Here's what I've learned: is a good skill is being comfortable being uncomfortable, and being in situations where you don't know how it's going to work out. And I've been in so many situations over the past 20 plus years where I'm like, Todd, what are we doing? I have no idea what I'm going to do here. But after you've done that enough, you start to develop some confidence in yourself, and you realize, you know what, I can figure this out. I can find help. So my advice would be a good skill to develop is being uncomfortable, being functional while you're uncomfortable and getting yourself into uncomfortable situations, because like you said, that's where the growth opportunity is. That's where the good stuff is. The good stuff's just outside your comfort zone, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back. How old are you?
31.
31. All right. So let's go back and talk to 20-year-old Adam Rushing. And if you could give him one piece of advice, what would it be?
Read all the books that you can,
Hmm.
I think. And, you know, don't spend time on things that aren't in the direction of the path you're wanting to go. It really, you know, I learned that probably about 25.
Hmm.
And, you know, prior to that, I was, you know, work hard and clock out and then have fun and uh, figure it all out again the next day when you clock back in. And it just, it's a huge game changer when you stay focused on where you want to go. And, you know, I thought, you know, originally I hated reading. I hated books. You know, in school, you'd have to do a book report and they'd say, oh, well, you know, don't give away the ending. And I enjoyed reading so little that I would read 3/4 of the book and I wouldn't even finish it. You don't have to tell the ending, so I wouldn't read the ending. And I didn't like it. And, you know, after I found out that there's more there than just, you know, having fun and doing the things that you think you enjoy. Because I think you find a lot more enjoyment when you know it's leading you in the right direction. And so that's when I started reading all the different you know, business and kind of personal development books, you know, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, um, the E-Myth, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it just, it clicked. I just started enjoying it because I knew it was helping me. It was getting me that much closer, that much further. And the other things I was spending my time on weren't. You know, it'd be enjoyable at the time, and then that would be done and reality would hit, and, you know, you'd have to figure out where to go from there. And so by being able to just keep your mind on track and keep that going, and that's when everything really just started clicking for me and getting those opportunities. Just like, you know, had I not started doing that, I probably wouldn't have tried and wouldn't have been able to transition from being a millwright to being the supervisor of the production of the mill. And had I not taken that opportunity, that risk, because that was a little bit of a pay cut when I did that, but had I not done that, you know, I don't think, at least at that time, I would have had the confidence and the drive to then start my own business.
Yep. So what advice would you give to a smart, driven high school student who's about to enter the real world?
Set your mind on a path
Hmm.
and go for it. Take the leap, because whatever you think that path is going to be, it's going to change 1,000 times. And so just, you know, if somebody's giving you an opportunity that's outside your comfort zone, that's to learn something new, do something new, take it and do your very best at it, because something else is going to pop up and what you're doing now, it may not seem like it, but it will be relevant to where you're going.
Yep.
So, you know, if it's, if you enjoy hands-on, if you enjoy, you know, building, working, putting things together, do it. Go into the trades, because you learn so much more than, it's so much more than just swinging a hammer.
Yeah.
It's and learning on the job. I don't like colleges, 4-year colleges and the bachelor's degrees, just because I've seen it too many times with friends, with family, things like that, where they spend all that time, all that money, all that energy towards that one thing, and it doesn't pan out, it doesn't work out, and they haven't built that working history or that opportunity to apply it to something new. And so it's just really good. It's really rewarding, and you know, it's going to get you there. I mean, I pursued the trades and I worked in the trades, and you know, I ended up switching over to that supervisor role, and had my passion been to go somewhere other than the trades, you know, it could have led me up the path of more into that realm of business and leadership and things like that. So there, yeah, I guess just take the jump. The opportunities are there, and where you want to be, as long as you stay focused, you're going to get there, and you're going to make money in the meantime.
Yeah, it's great advice. One thing that if I could go back and give some advice to my younger self, I realized that for like 15 or 20 years, wherever I was always looking at the next thing. I was always trying to get to the next thing. And I wasn't completely invested in where I was, because I was so concerned about the next promotion, the next job, the next whatever. And if I could go back, I would tell myself, you're going to get there. You're going to get somewhere. And like you said, just pick a path. It's probably not going to work out exactly like you think it will, but give it everything you've got, be fully invested wherever you're at, and then just build what's in front of you. And then when the next opportunity comes and it's right, take the risk, take that calculated risk, get fully invested in that opportunity, soak up everything you can, build all the relationships you can, learn everything you can, but don't constantly be scanning the horizon looking for the next thing. That was a mistake that I made. So those are some amazing recommendations, right, from a couple of super wise guys, and you know, some sage advice. But I'm curious, what are some bad recommendations that you hear people giving to young people going into construction specifically?
This might sound kind of odd, but the whole keep your head down and work hard. You know, you know, of course you need to work hard. You need to be efficient. You need to be not lazy, not standing around. But it's you know, if you just only focus, you know, if somebody hands you a shovel and says, you know, dig the trench for that silt fence, you know, you need to do it, and you're going to do it, but do it quickly, get it over with, and then focus on what's going on around you. You know, soak all that in, what other people are doing, find what sparks your interest. You know, keep your eyes out for what's going on, and then, you know, when it's time to end of the day, time to clock out, if you see something that somebody was doing that you think is cool, or you want to learn, you know, stop them at the end of the day and say, hey, can you show me how you did that? Mm-hmm. Because it's just so valuable to learn all that stuff, because you're never going to know what what that next opportunity is going to be, where you're going to be able to apply that. And you know, as long as you have a decent employer, if you stop them at the end of the day and say, hey, can you teach me that? Can you show me how to do that? They're going to love that. You know, they're going to see a person that's driven, wants to learn, and wants to get to that next level. And they're going to stop what they're doing and they're going to help you out. You know, they'll be happy if all you do is run around and do that grunt work. But you're not getting where you need to be. Or, you know, if you focus, say, like I said, you know, digging the trench for the silk fence, you know, you hate it. It's not a fun job. And so, you know, if you drag that out all day long and, you know, you get it done, boss is happy it got done, but what'd you gain from that day? Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot more than just staying focused and working hard. It's looking for that next opportunity, looking what's going on around you, getting involved in it.
Yeah, the old advice from high school when you're taking a test of keep your eyes on your own work, that doesn't apply. So what I tell people is somebody's paying you something to get an education when you're working in the trades. And you can focus on the shovel and complain about, this is what I see a lot, people bitching and moaning, saying they should be doing something else. They should be the supervisor. They should be running equipment. They should be doing something a few levels up, but they don't know. And they think they should get promoted and then learn and then demonstrate their ability. But you need to learn and look at other people's work and then demonstrate that you can do the next job, and then you'll get a promotion. Yeah. So that's really good advice. Let me ask you this. What's the number one thing you look for when you're interviewing a potential employee?
Where their passion is, where their drive is. So I like, and I look for those people to hire that don't know it all yet, that are still really green to what it is my business does. And then I ask them questions and I look for where they want to go, where they want to be. You know, if you're trying to hire just to fill that position, that need, then you're always going to be hiring to fill that need. Mm-hmm. You know, I want to hire people that are going to fill that need at the time or have the potential to fill that need so that I can grow them and they'll continue with the company. So I guess I look for not necessarily who somebody is at the time, but who they're determined to be. Because that's just way more valuable than finding that person that, you know, you think you can just hire and plug into a spot and it's going to run, because, you know, it will, but, you know, that's where it's going to stay.
Yeah.
In my experience, and it's so my suggestion to people is when you're interviewing, be totally honest, you know, tell them that you don't know, but you're determined to figure it out. Mm-hmm. and to succeed, and give them some examples of that, how you've done that in the past. Yeah. Because sorry to cut you off, but you can train people the technical skills, mm-hmm. but you can't train people the mental skills that it takes to get to that next level. Mm-hmm. They have to already have that drive.
Yep. That's great. That's great advice. Don't hire based on who they are, hire based or at least consider who they want to be and where they're headed. Yeah, that's great advice. Next question. What's something you believe to be true about business that some people might think is unconventional, even a little crazy?
That money isn't real.
Okay. All right.
I know that does sound kind of crazy, but I before I started this business, it was always, and it's probably just a mindset between when you switch from being an employee to being an employer. But I was always thinking that money was this thing that you're either getting or losing.
Hmm.
And once I became an employer and running my own business, it's more than that. It's not it's just this piece of paper that somebody decided had value, and really all it represents is commitments and negotiations between people. So it's representing the deal that you made. It's kind of like the barter system.
Hmm.
It's so when you're working through something, don't look at it as, oh, I made all this money, or I lost all this money. It's, you either made a good deal or a bad deal. And so if you didn't make X amount that you were projected to make, then you just have to make a better deal the next time. And that mindset really helped to kind of wrap my head around how to stay focused on the business and not the money.
Hmm.
Because it's you could wake up tomorrow and the US dollar is shot, and everything you've saved and everything you've valued in that is gone, and all that matters is the next deal you can make.
Hmm.
And so it's I guess as soon as I realized that it's not something I'm gaining or losing, it's just a resource that I use to evaluate how my process is. There's always, you're not limited to that capped income. It's not like you get paid $60,000 a year. That's all you'll make. That's no more, no less, and you have to budget it and work it. At that point, it's a physical thing that you're either gaining or losing. But after you get into business, it's not. There's no limitation to it. So if this one doesn't work out the way you planned, technically, yeah, you lost money, but you gain knowledge for the next one, and the next one you'll make more money. And
Mm-hmm.
it just, I don't know, to me, it just kind of became a thing that wasn't really, it just wasn't really real anymore. It just was a resource, and there's more to be made on the next job, or more to learn from it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense. It's kind of a weird way of thinking about it, but it really helped me to not get stressed and not feel like I either won or lost. I either learned something or not.
Yeah. I love that concept of money as a resource, because money's a resource. It's not a reward necessarily. It's a resource. And money, I don't remember where I read this, but I've been reading it. I've got it written down somewhere. Money is a result of success. Like, success is not a result of money, right? So money is a result of success, and success is a result of service or adding value. So a lot of people are focused on the money, or the lack thereof, but the focus really should be on the value that you're adding for people, the problems you're solving, how you're serving people. And if you do that, then the money will take care of itself. But if you focus on the money, you'll never have enough, or eventually you'll lose what you have because of the mindset. So I I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great philosophy. You should probably write a book. Money isn't real. It,
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I see other contractors and I hear about, you go to to do an estimate or a bid and, more times than not, the client's going to tell you about their horrible experience with, so-and-so contractor and how they ripped them off or whatever. And, maybe that wasn't their intention. Maybe they're not a bad person, but if you're focused on that, so the job doesn't go the way you want it to, and you're focused on, oh, I've lost all this money, right? Then I see people where they try to find a way to get that back out of that job because they're seeing it as they lost something. And so, they're trying to tweak change orders and they'll get caught padding hours or things like that, which all that does is it breaks your reputation. It breaks down your relationship with the client. It doesn't fix your problem. All it did was, teach you how to weasel your way to that money that you thought you lost. Where if you picture it as it's not a real thing. It's not something you gained. It's just a representation. Sorry, I stumbled there. Representation of how well you performed, and you look at that as a way to opportunity to grow. You're not going to do that the next time or the next time or the next time or the next time. But if when you're not performing well, you focus on trying to get back that lost money, all you're learning from that is how to find a way to get that back, as opposed to how a way to gain more and perform better the next time. And so that's where it just really triggered for me that, it's not a real thing. It's just a piece of paper or a coin that somebody decided was worth something that really isn't. Yep. And it's all just the negotiations and the agreements you make between people.
Yeah, I like that. And ultimately, I think the myth about money is people think when I have X amount of money, when I make six figures, or when I have X amount of money in the bank, then my life will be different. And then I'll be happy, or they put something good on the other side of some dollar figure. And if you look at people who've won the lottery, you look at professional athletes who suddenly came into a lot of money, you look at celebrities who suddenly became wealthy, there's a lot of them that end up going the other direction. And I would tell you, for those folks listening, if you're pegging your hopes and dreams and your happiness, putting it on the other side of some income amount or some number in your bank account, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You're going to be really disappointed, because I can tell you from personal experience, I've done that, and I've put my happiness on the other side of making a big deal or making a lot of money on a deal or having a really good year. And it actually has the opposite effect, because if you spend years thinking, man, if I just make this much money, then I'll be happy. And then you make that much money, then you're not happy. It's pretty frustrating. And so I think that's a great topic. Get your mindset right about money. And you do that by not focusing on it. Wow, that'll preach right there. That's good stuff. All right. Yeah. So one more question. If somebody came up to contacts you and said, Adam, I'm thinking about starting my own business, and you could only ask them one question that they really need to think about, what would that question be?
I would ask them what that would do for them. Because I think that not to go back to the money thing again, but if they're wanting to go into business to make a bunch of money or to not have a boss, to not have a someone that's telling you what to do and how to do it, then you're going into business for the wrong thing, and you're not going to be happy, and you're probably going to end up falling on your face. Um, I think in order to really have a successful business, you have to want to do it for that self of that sense of self accomplishment, right? I I enjoy having my business because I enjoy seeing this machine that I'm building, that's making my clients happy, that's providing for the families of my employees, that when I can leave for a week to go to your conference in Kentucky, it keeps running. It's a system, it's a process that is succeeding, and it's not about the not having a boss, not having somebody to tell you what to do, because there's always that. The client's telling you what to do, the IRS is telling you what to do, there's always that upper level that's telling you what to do and when you need to do it. You got to have to want to be the entrepreneur, and not be, you're not going to be this guy that's sitting in a mansion, that's driving the Ferrari. If that's what you want and that's what you're wanting to do, the reason you're wanting to go into business, you're not going to succeed, because you're not going to be focusing on the right things. Focus on your people, focus on your clients, and the rest will just come.
Yeah. And I would say most of those people you see on social media driving their Ferraris or standing in front of their private jet, they're not focused on value. They're focused on perception. And maybe they came into money, but one thing I'm pretty sure of is they didn't get there because of their efforts of showing the perception. They didn't get there trying to show it off. Yeah, so that's great advice. Well, we've been at this for quite a while. If people want to find out more about you, go to your website, connect with you, where should they go?
Yeah, so my website is arnwconstruction.com, or they can email me at adam@arnwconstruction.com. But yeah, check us out and send me an email, and more than willing to talk with anybody who wants to listen.
Sounds great. Well, this has been great. This was a good conversation. I love the concept about money isn't real, and I think it helps give people the right perspective. So don't make the mistake I made and avoid really good advice. So for those of you who are young and you're listening and you're thinking about starting a business, this Adam is a guy you want to listen to. So Adam, I appreciate it, man. This has been great.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
There you go. I hope you got something out of that interview with Adam Rushing. He's a great guy, very generous with his time. He provided some information there if you want to get in touch with him. If you want to hear more about his story, then I would encourage you to do that. So don't forget to check out those resources I shared with you. You can get some free resources on productivity and optimizing your overhead by going to buildermasterclass.com. And then, are you preparing to purchase materials? Then why would you settle for 30-day terms, or worse, no terms, when you can have 120-day terms with any of your suppliers? Finally, there's a finance partner built for contractors. You can learn more over at build.com/CLE. That's BILLD.com/CLE. As always, I appreciate the ratings and the reviews. And if you could take a moment and leave a rating and or a review on the podcast player of your choice, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you could share this podcast with somebody who might like to hear it. Maybe you know somebody who's thinking about or dreaming about starting a construction business, then they probably need to hear this story. It's going to do a lot for them. As always, thank you so much for listening. I'm Todd DeWalt, and I will see you next time.